Thanks for coming. James Gallo, KB2FMH. It's on the thing if that's what's showing. Brian, you don't put them on the back screens too? So I could see what I'm doing? Not that I'm going to point to those, but I know that's showing me something, right? All right. First off, if anybody takes any pictures or videos, my girlfriend's dying to see what I do when I do this stuff. So if you do it, send them to me. mycall@gmail.com. I'd appreciate that. If there's any photograph or video of my storytelling or any of the guys, send it there and we'll work it out because I know them all and we'll all sort it out. So I'm here to talk about my adventure on American Samoa. It's not the most wanted. It's not a coveted location. It's a good IOTA. It's a good DX entity for those who don't have the KH8. I made it a POTA park as well, and I'm going to get to that. So that's what it's all about. Tutuila Island, 2023. The team was Hal Turley. Are you in the room, Hal? I think he's still selling stuff over on the field. Myself and Yuri Sushkin, N3QQ, went down there to spend 3 weeks putting it on the air to give everybody the opportunity to get a contact with KH8, the island, and the park, and from what I understand, a super rare grid because we were on a mountaintop called Mount Alava in the national park, which I'll get to, and that fella next to us, the pointer works? Not working too well. Anyway, that fella Joey was our liaison on American Samoa in Pago Pago, the guy that knows everyone, knows everywhere to go, and takes care of us like we're his brothers. One of the best people I ever met. There's the IOTA, OC045. I don't know how rare it is. Caesar, is OC45 semi-rare? Is it wanted? Yuri seemed to think that it was wanted by like 60% of the members. He knows how to sort through your database to see who wants what. That was going to be one of the cards fronts until I said, you know what, let's change it and include some other things and make it more attractive because I have a plan. That's the card front we ended up using that shows the grid, parks, WWF or KFF because they're both outdoor park programs, and the island. I wanted to put the American Samoa logo and, of course, the little black circle that says RRC. The activity was developed by the Russian Robinson Club, which is a group of people around the world, not all Russians. I'm a member. There's many American and other foreign members. I think 1,100 around the world who activate islands all over the place. That card is relevant. 1 minute more. Keep your eye on that because I used this scene for a special purpose. But I like to mix it up with parks, and I'll tell you why. That's maybe one of the reasons I'm up here and not some other more elaborate or more wanted expedition. When you mix DX and you bring parks on the air into it, it brings, as of today, 56,000. If anyone was here for the POTA presentation earlier, 56,000 members around the world chase parks as well as DX, islands, castles, lighthouses, Walmart parking lots, whatever you want to chase. There are people chasing them. Beaches on the air is a thing now. Castles on the air. So why not POTA? It's the biggest growing on-the-air activity out there. So we have thousands and thousands of them. They're accustomed to the pileups. They're very cooperative in working with a pileup. If you ask one of them to wait, they will. If you acknowledge somebody, they get off quick. They're not there to chit-chat because a POTA activation is almost the same as a DX activation because each activation of a park is like a little expedition for each person. It gives them that pleasure. So they know how to do it quick. They give you your SIG report, which is really irrelevant, but it's become the routine, and the 7-3. Thanks, and we say next. Something that is important, I don't know why that V moved. I guess the screen resolution has to be adjusted. I had it all in one word. They're very appreciative of giving them the opportunity for the new location, and many of them are DX chasers too. I mean, everybody who's out there wants the DXCC, but when they get more things to chase, they do that too. And they're very generous. They support us well. Many of the expeditioners that are in here who have partnered with me, I'm the DX liaison for POTA, know that when you say, we'll give you the logs, or we're going to make this a parks joint venture with DX, you get great support financially, and that's what it takes to go. I mean, we like to say we can all afford to do it, but we can't afford to do them continuously out of our own pocket. Am I right? It's not that simple. What I did in that light, I took that card, and if you notice, I put some sand. I'm going to get next to it because this pointer isn't working. That's a picture of real sand that I got from a beach in Pago Pago, and I put some Elmer's glue on all the sand in the image, sprinkled real sand on it, and I sent that to people who were in our Century Club donor. I gave it a name. You donate $100 or more, and you're in our Century Club. 250 or more, Century Club Plus. And that got you the card and either one of those shells, I think it's a conch shell, like what the hermit crabs live in, or a little piece of coral with the shell. Makes it special. Who wouldn't want to get something unique from everyone else for your $100 or $250 or $500 donation? But we're not here about the money. We're here about the fun. Here, Hal and I paid a visit on our way to the park to meet the representative of the local national park. I can't remember the woman's name. If I remembered it, I probably can't pronounce it. It's a local Samoan name, but she was one of the nicest people there, and they hooked us up with a building on top of this Mount of Lava, 1,500 feet above sea level on the north side, giving us great takeoff from Asia across North America into Europe and then down to South America and Oceania. There was really we had a horizon panoramic view from up there. It was great. We couldn't use our lovely VDAs, but we did really well with dipoles, inverted Vs, and some spiral verticals, which I'll get to later. We made one for 60 meters particularly, just for that. So you all want to know what the stations were because this is part of the interesting part. This was my station. I was the sole phone operator. I had a TX 480 HX, which I decided to take because if the amp goes bad, I still have 200 watts. Those familiar with the HX, it's a 200-watt transceiver that works really well. I used, at first I took my Heil Pro 7 to use. I also took a backup, cheap $30 one that I got from Amazon, a COS, that I ended up staying with because it worked as well or better than the Heil, and it's 99% lighter, and so it's not heavy and it's not crushing your head, but it sounds great, it hears well, and it worked really nice. I used the Expert 1.3, which did a great job. The built-in tuner helped when you get to the edges of bands. It enabled me to use a 40-meter double bazooka on 10, 12, 15, 17, and 40. Without the tuner, it was never in excess of 2.5 to 1. I don't know how. I had it in the right configuration at the right place. It worked great. The built-in tuner in the amplifier brought it down to an acceptable 1.5 or 1.6, which was really terrific. So that's a picture of the station right there. It was very comfortable. Had a little folding plastic table, chair in front. I had a fan blowing across me because we got a building on top of the mountain. It had hard power, but it had no water and no air conditioners, but they gave us a couple of little box fans to use, which was great. The next station that I'm referring to was HAL, K8, can't remember his call again. Hotel Charlie, right? Hal Turley, I can't think of it for some reason. And he used his K3, a Juma PA1000, and the antennas you see. Here's an image of a 6-meter Yagi that he had bought just for this, and that antenna in the background is a 17-foot telescopic whip with a couple of elevated radials that he was using for 20 meters, and the elevated radials faced North America to give that little bit of an angle for us. But every once in a while, he would turn them around to go west into Japan and Southern Oceania, Australia, New Zealand. The digital stations were these Sun SDR Pro 2s. Familiar with those? I'm not so familiar because I haven't gotten into the digital mode yet. I'm trying to learn it. I want to. Eventually I will. Another Juma 1000 and the set of antennas. The 20-meter vertical, that one there, dipoles that Yuri had made for 10 and 30 and 15 and 17. Let me get back to Yuri. He organized it. He's the North American liaison for the Russian Robinson Club, and he organized this expedition. Flew from Seattle, Washington. We met in Honolulu, then flew down to American Samoa. The night of the second day we were there, he received a call from his mother in Novosibirsk, Siberia, that his father was gravely ill, and he had to leave. The next morning, he was on, Joey, our cool guy, took him to the airport because he stayed up all night arranging his sequential flights to get back home because he wanted to see his dad before he died. So after day 3, it was just Hal and I. So we didn't make a lot of cues, but we did the best we could with the conditions we had, and here we got to that. 2017 and 15 were the hot bands for us. We did a total of 26,673. Out of those, 10,594 uniques. The bulk of the QSOs came, the bulk of them, of course, were the digital modes. And then phone was second and CW was third. We made contacts in all 50 states. We got 140 countries in the 17 days we were there, 39 zones. But this is my favorite. Almost 170 million miles total travel of our signals. And that's what fascinates me. Being able to know that your signal, your voice or your tap is going that far around the world is what fascinates me about the DX. Because, you know, we could easily do it with a telephone or with an internet email now. But to know that my voice traveled, I only do talking so far. My voice traveled millions of miles around the world. And for those who know what radio is really an electromagnetic wave, part of the bigger spectrum, my voice is still traveling through space. It's going to end up out soon at the speed of light. It's going to exit our solar system and be out there in the Milky Way galaxy. And one day, you know, maybe in 1,000 years from now, my voice is going to be at some other galaxy far, far away. It might actually hit the comm of the future Star Trek movies because they travel out there. Please hold any questions till the end. If we only have a short time because of the constraints for some other reason, which Brian will tell you later. So any questions, we'll all be outside after this. We can only field a few questions at the end, but we'll all be able to take your questions as a group, collectively, outside in the shade, I hope, after the final presentation. So please bear with us. Here's the location where we were. That red outline is the complete boundary of the American Samoa National Park and Wildlife Refuge. We were at that spot that shows us on top of Mount Alava in a one-story cinder block building with a tin roof, 2 rooms, 2 fans, a few chairs, and a couple of tables. We rented a Toyota RAV4 to get us up and down the mountain, back to our lodging. We slept at an Airbnb down in Pago Pago, which was really comfortable. Who sneezed? Bless you. It's a habit, sorry. That's the building we were in. We got our obligatory picture with Yuri before he left, holding the DXE banner, because, as always, they support us very, very well. They sent us 700 feet of coax, an assortment of balance, poles, hundreds of feet of 14-gauge flex weave, terminators or dog bones for those who make your own dipoles, and a lot of other things. So we have to do that. Now, if you notice the bottom left-hand corner, under the E, near Hal's shorts, you'll see some scribbling. That's our 3 signatures, the call sign and the date. At that moment, I decided, and who the hell am I to make this decision, but I did, that's going to be the official South Pacific DXE banner. And I left it with Joey, knowing that our friends were on their way to Swains Island in a few months, and they were going to stop in American Samoa. So I said, you know what, Terry, don't send them a banner. I'm leaving this one where I know they're going to be, and I'll ensure that they get it, and you have it, sign it, and use it, and of course leave it for the next group. Now, what makes this unique, this expedition, unique from most others that you go to remote places, you set up camps, or you get into a building and put up your antennas and get on the air, is average expedition. Joey took Hal and I to what was called the fancy restaurant, this Lady Thompson. Keep your eye on that picture. We end with some humor with that. He then took us, after we ate there, he took us to see some sights and some memorials. The next day, when we had some time, and we have to take a break and conditions drop out, I decided to go visit the South Pacific Fish and Wildlife manager, a fellow named Brian Peck, that's his wife, Vera, to the left. Hal's and my backs, we're looking at some bird up in the trees that she's telling us about. We decided to visit him because he's got the power to issue permits to some of the other local places. And I wanted to plant a seed for a friend of mine, one of our presenters tonight, who's going to another island, and not that he needs it, but it never helps to reinforce and make the guy happy. And he was ecstatic. He said, most contacts I've ever had with you hams is some nasty emails and some phone calls begging me for permits to go to places that you really shouldn't be going to. But he was so happy to have us there. We had lunch. We had some drinks. We talked a lot. At that moment, it was a torrential downpour. Let me say that in Pago Pago, or on American Samoa, it rains about every hour for 10 or 15 minutes. So much so that our coax would float. The chickens that are all over the island become ducks. For the few inches of water, you get 2 inches of water in 10 minutes, but then it goes away because we're on a mountain. But the ground is so saturated it can't absorb anymore because the last rain an hour ago every hour it keeps soaking it up. So it was funny, and I said to Hal, look, I got some ducks outside. He said, what do you mean ducks? There's chickens. I said, they're ducks now. They're swimming. They're soaking wet, and they're swimming. So that was a lot of fun. From there, we went to have dinner at a place called Tisa's Barefoot Bar, and I give her credit because she's the one who gave me that handful of sand from a protected cove, which as a native village chief, she oversees and is responsible to protect. And she was kind enough to give me a little Ziploc bag with a handful of beautiful, fine sand with some speckles of volcanic dust. There was little black, tiny specks in it. And during that dinner, I made another friend with the little kitty cat who wanted to sit and eat with me. Our next adventure, which is unique, is Hal and I got invited to be interviewed by the local radio station. A fellow named John Rayner runs the popular morning drive show. And he invited us to talk because amateur radio in American Samoa is unique. There used to be a fellow who lived there, and he would get on the air as a local operator, the same way all you guys do from home. When you have time, you call CQ. But he died a while back, from what I understand, and now there's nobody. So when they heard we were there, putting the place on the air for radio, this guy wanted to interview us. And according to him, he does 10-minute interviews in the morning with special people. We got him for almost 40 minutes. He was fascinated by the fact that I'm a New Yorker, Brooklynite, and Hal is from his hometown. They're both from West Virginia. They both were born and raised in West Virginia. John Rayner worked in New York for the famous or infamous DJ Howard Stern as an intern for a while, so that was his connection to me. And I think he just liked listening to me talk, which some people do and a lot of people don't. But nonetheless, we had a great time there. There was another group being interviewed in another room by a different guy for later, recorded for later broadcast, and they happened to be a couple of pilots from the Rotary Club, Rotarians, and they were doing a project called Flight to End Polio. I said, I thought we eradicated polio. And they said, yeah, in the U.S., but polio is rampant in other countries, third world countries. So we're flying to raise awareness and raise money. The connection to us was they had paid somebody to install a Yaesu 891 in their plane with a wire antenna off the wing and tail, but they didn't do it right. So they asked us if we could take a look. What I found was, and they paid $5,000 for the radio, the wire, and the installation. I think that's a little bit excessive, but hey, when you're doing it for some guys who own an airplane, you figure they got money to burn, right? I found the squelch all the way up, the RF gain all the way down, and every PL259 connection between the radio and the attached Yaesu auto tuner hand tight. I asked one of the gentlemen for a little wrench. He had a tiny little channel lock plier. I tightened everything up, adjusted the settings, put the gain up, the squelch down. They had it fixed on an 8 megahertz and a 13 megahertz frequency that is monitored by aviation. And the reason that they need this is when they're out over the open ocean, their aviation VHF is just not going to cut it when they're 1,000 miles from anywhere else. But they can get out on the 8 and 13. It's equivalent to 40 and 20 meters for our purposes. So that's me helping the guy understand it and making the connections. To end this, because I have to give a few minutes for questions, which I will answer more outside, I have to thank everybody, of course. I'm obliged to say thanks to everybody. Bernie, you see yours in there, right? Got to thank you because you're one of the people that help tell people about what we're doing. If we don't promote it up front, nobody knows we're going until they see it on the cluster and say, what the heck is that? Some other opportunities to thank. The Indexa people helped us a little bit, but the best part is Hal is the treasurer of Indexa. Our other friend, who's almost like Bernie, not as prestigious, but he's more visual, is our friend in Europe, DX World, of course, DXE, the radio station. Our POTA, we had some support from our friends in the Dominican Republic. And now to make you laugh, I don't know, is this audio on the computer? Here's the thing with Hal and I. That somebody, they did this. It's hilarious. You didn't know you could sing like that, right? My voice doesn't look like or sound like I can do that. But put us together on the other side of the equator, everything's different.